When Lewis Hamilton made the decision to join Scuderia Ferrari, most fans immediately started asking the same question. How different will the Ferrari actually feel compared to the cars Hamilton drove for so many years? For over a decade, Hamilton built his driving style around the characteristics of Mercedes Formula One machinery. Those cars had their own balance, their own aerodynamic philosophy, and their own unique behavior in corners. Ferrari, however, has historically built cars with a very different personality. And when engineers compare telemetry between different cars and drivers, they often discover that switching teams isn't just about changing the color of the suit or the logo on the steering wheel. It can mean adjusting the entire way a driver approaches corners, braking zones, and acceleration points. In Hamilton's case, joining Ferrari may require subtle but important changes to the way he drives a Formula One car. At first glance, driving style might sound like a simple concept. Many fans assume it just means whether a driver looks aggressive or smooth on track. But in Formula One, driving style is actually a complex combination of steering technique, braking behavior, throttle control, and how a driver manages the balance of the car during each phase of a corner. Every driver develops habits over time that match the characteristics of the car they drive. When those characteristics change, the driver must adapt. For much of his career, Hamilton drove cars developed by Mercedes engineers. Those cars were often known for being stable, predictable, and very strong at the rear of the car. Rear stability is an important trait because it allows the driver to apply throttle with confidence when exiting corners. If the rear of the car feels stable, the driver can accelerate earlier without worrying that the rear tires will suddenly lose grip. Hamilton's driving style developed around this kind of balance. One of the things engineers often notice when analyzing Hamilton's telemetry is how progressive his inputs tend to be. His steering movements are usually smooth rather than sudden. His brake pressure curves often show strong initial braking followed by a controlled release, and his throttle application tends to build gradually as the car exits a corner. These patterns reflect a driver who prefers to keep the car balanced and predictable rather than constantly correcting sudden changes in grip. But Ferrari cars have historically behaved somewhat differently. While every Formula One car aims to maximize grip and speed, each team achieves that goal through slightly different aerodynamic philosophies and mechanical setups. Ferrari has often produced cars that feel sharper at the front of the car. Engineers sometimes describe this as a car with strong front-end response. When a driver turns the steering wheel, the front of the car reacts quickly and begins rotating toward the corner apex. A car with strong front-end response can be extremely effective because it allows the driver to rotate the car quickly at corner entry. That rotation helps position the car for the apex and prepares it for the exit phase. But it can also feel very different from a car that emphasizes rear stability. If the front reacts very quickly, the rear of the car can sometimes feel lighter or more sensitive. Drivers must trust the front grip and manage the rear carefully to maintain balance. This is where adaptation becomes important. Hamilton's driving style has historically relied on a very stable rear end combined with smooth steering and throttle inputs. If the Ferrari car rotates more aggressively at the front, Hamilton may need to adjust the way he approaches certain corners. For example, he may need to commit slightly earlier to steering inputs or allow the car to rotate more quickly before applying throttle. Telemetry comparisons between different cars often reveal these differences clearly. Engineers look at several key traces when analyzing driver behavior. Steering angle traces show how quickly and how much a driver turns the wheel during corner entry. Brake pressure traces show how the driver applies and releases braking force. Throttle traces reveal when and how the driver begins accelerating again. When these traces are compared across different cars, small differences can become very noticeable. A car with stronger front-end grip might show faster steering angle increases at the beginning of the corner. A driver adapting to that car might initially show hesitation or additional corrections while learning how the car responds. Over time, those corrections usually disappear as the driver becomes more comfortable with the car's behavior. Another important factor is how weight transfer affects the car during braking and corner entry. When a Formula One driver presses the brake pedal, the car's weight shifts forward, increasing the load on the front tires. This extra load helps the front tires generate grip so the car can begin turning. But the exact way this weight transfer interacts with the car's suspension and aerodynamics can vary between teams. Ferrari's suspension and aerodynamic setup may cause the front tires to load more aggressively during braking. This can increase front grip but also change how quickly the car begins rotating. Drivers must learn to manage that rotation so the car follows the intended racing line without becoming unstable. Think about what that must feel like from inside the cockpit. Imagine entering a corner at nearly 300 kilometers per hour, braking hard while turning the steering wheel, and feeling the car respond slightly differently than you expect. Would you immediately trust the new balance of the car, or would you instinctively adjust your inputs to regain control? Let me know what you think, because adapting to a new car is one of the biggest challenges drivers face when switching teams. Another area where Ferrari's car characteristics could influence Hamilton's driving style is throttle application on corner exit. As the car approaches the apex of the corner, the driver begins preparing to accelerate again. This phase is critical because applying throttle too early can cause the rear tires to lose grip, while applying it too late sacrifices acceleration down the following straight. Hamilton is known for being extremely precise with throttle modulation. Instead of pressing the throttle suddenly, he often increases power gradually as the steering angle decreases. This helps maintain traction and prevents wheel spin. But if the Ferrari rotates earlier during the corner, Hamilton might be able to begin accelerating sooner than he did in the Mercedes. Earlier acceleration can provide a significant advantage. Even a fraction of a second gained on corner exit can translate into higher speed along the straight that follows. Over an entire lap, these small gains accumulate and can make a measurable difference in lap time. Of course, adapting to a new car involves more than just adjusting driving inputs. Drivers must also work closely with engineers to refine the car's setup. Suspension settings, aerodynamic balance, brake bias, and differential settings all influence how the car behaves. Hamilton's feedback will play a crucial role in helping Ferrari engineers fine-tune the car to match his preferences. Drivers communicate constantly with their engineers about how the car feels in different phases of the corner. They may describe whether the front feels responsive, whether the rear feels stable, or whether the car rotates too quickly or too slowly. Engineers use this feedback alongside telemetry data to adjust the car's setup between sessions. Historically, many drivers have needed time to adapt when switching teams. Even the most experienced drivers require laps and races to understand how a new car behaves at the limit of grip. Muscle memory built over years of driving one type of car must be recalibrated to match the characteristics of another. Consider how different cars can feel even when they produce similar lap times. One car might rotate aggressively at corner entry, but require careful throttle control on exit. Another might feel very stable on exit, but require patience before the front tires generate enough grip to rotate the car. Drivers must adjust their instincts to match these differences. Hamilton has shown throughout his career that he can adapt to changing conditions. From early career cars with very different aerodynamic philosophies to modern hybrid-era machines, he has repeatedly adjusted his style to remain competitive. That adaptability will likely play an important role as he transitions into Ferrari machinery. Another interesting aspect of this transition is how Ferrari's aerodynamic philosophy might interact with Hamilton's natural strengths. If the car allows quick rotation at the front while still providing enough rear stability, Hamilton's smooth driving style could become extremely effective. His ability to manage tyre wear and maintain consistent pace over long stints could complement Ferrari's design approach. This raises an interesting question for fans and analysts alike. Do you think Hamilton's smooth style will suit Ferrari's sharper front-end behaviour, or will he need several races to fully adapt? Share your thoughts in the comments, because driver adaptation is one of the most fascinating parts of Formula One. The combination of driver skill, engineering design, and telemetry analysis ultimately determines how competitive a team becomes. Hamilton's move to Ferrari creates a new chapter where these elements must align once again. Engineers will analyze every lap, compare telemetry traces, and work with Hamilton to refine the car's behavior. As the season progresses, those adjustments may become visible in the data. Steering traces may grow smoother as Hamilton becomes comfortable with the car's rotation. Throttle application points may move earlier as he learns to exploit the Ferrari's cornering characteristics. Brake pressure curves may change slightly as he adapts to the way the car loads the front tires during braking. Each of these changes represents a small piece of the adaptation process. While fans may only see the final lap time on the timing screen, the story behind that lap time involves countless subtle adjustments and engineering insights. The next time you watch Hamilton drive the Ferrari through a corner, pay attention to how the car behaves as he turns the steering wheel and begins accelerating again. Notice how the front reacts, how the car rotates, and how smoothly the power comes back in. These details might reveal how Hamilton's driving style evolves as he becomes more familiar with Ferrari's unique car philosophy. And that brings us back to the central question. Lewis Hamilton must change aspects of his driving style because Ferrari's car behaves differently from the cars he drove before. Telemetry analysis helps engineers understand those differences and guide the adaptation process. Over time, the combination of Hamilton's skill and Ferrari's engineering may produce a driving style that blends the strengths of both worlds. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Hamilton will adapt quickly to Ferrari's car, or will it take time for him to unlock its full potential? And which driver do you think has adapted most successfully after switching teams in Formula One history? Let me know your thoughts, because the evolution of a driver's style is one of the most fascinating stories in motorsport.